But these are just kind of a broad overview of options for you if you're a person with co-occurring eating disorders and substance use disorders. These are the evidence-based models that, per the people in all these research studies tell me, are the ones that bode the best results. So, and a lot of facilities will hopefully be using kind of a combination of a lot of these, not just one. A lot of places use motivational interviewing to move people towards change and reduce their problematic behavior, right? Sometimes it's harm reduction versus abstinence. This is a lot of meeting people where they're at, motivational interviewing. The stages of change. I've got somebody in contemplation, so what can I do? What can I say to them? What questions can I ask them to move them along into that preparation stage? And likewise, how can I move them into action? Focuses on increasing willingness for the most part and helps people explore that ambivalence that a lot of times they have when they come into treatment. Or I'm here for my substance use treatment, but I'm really ambivalent about getting treatment for my eating disorder, or vice versa. ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, connection to values. The goal is to develop goals in line with those values. Values and goals drive my behavior, and it hits that self-directedness piece, right? Remember when we talked about personality characteristics of people with co-occurring ED and SUD? They want to be self-directive as much as possible. So developing those goals and actions in line with those goals are going to help that person feel less stuck. CBT gets a ton of hype. It's probably one of the most popular or commonly applied behavioral health model. It's usually relatively short, system-oriented, focuses on changing distorted beliefs, thoughts, values, thought processes. A lot of self-monitoring, problem-solving, coping skills, lots of mindfulness, accountability, that kind of thing. And again, there are so many options here because it's never going to be a one-size-fits-all for you. Never, ever. DBT, if you're familiar with Dawn Farm, you're very familiar with DBT. It focuses on mindfulness, largely skills-based. Also focuses on regulating my emotions, distress tolerance, reducing unhealthy coping, replacing them with healthy coping skills. Good for those disorders of under control, right? Good for that binge eating disorder, the substance use disorders, people with like borderline personality disorder, things where people need a lot of help regulating those emotions, right? I need a lot of help getting to that wise mind area so that I'm making effective decisions. RODBT, radically open DBT is new to me. Radically open DBT targets disorders of over-control, right? So it's kind of the flip side. Those disorders of over-control, like the anorexia nervosa, people with OCD, some degrees of the autism spectrum disorder, basically helps reduce behavior centered around control, perfectionism, and rigidity. It uses mindfulness to observe thoughts and unpleasant sensations and emotions with a detached lens, which is basically urge surfing, to acknowledge and allow those feelings to pass. So the Maudsley approach is not a co-occurring approach. It's primarily for eating disorders and for adolescents. It's supposed to be the most effective, or one of the most effective, ED treatment models for adolescents. Parents are heavily involved, a lot of focus on refeeding and return to normal eating patterns. It's a phased treatment where, when you start out, parents or supports pretty much have all control over what that person is eating. And then throughout the phases, phase 2, phase 3, control slowly gets given back to the adolescent, and then they are allowed to choose what they eat. And it focuses on kind of like all of that stuff first, and then secondary explores, the real root causes of they call it the secondary issues related to the ED. Mindfulness-based approaches. Mindfulness is another one of those buzzwords that's getting a lot of hype lately, as it should. Mindfulness is great, right? So mindfulness can and probably should be added to any existing treatment program, right? Even if whatever therapy you're getting right now, if it doesn't have a mindfulness component, add your own mindfulness component, right? Start practicing it in whatever ways you can. These three, this mindfulness-based stress reduction, mindfulness-based TCs, and mindfulness-oriented recovery enhancement are all just like specific programs that some places will use. Like the MORE is like a 10-session program. This is like an actual long-term residential program. And then the mindfulness-based stress reduction is a formal meditation teaching. But there are also programs like DBT and ACT which have the mindfulness component built into them. Because mindfulness is always going to be helpful in recovery from SUD, for ED, and for general well-being. So it's going to be something that's going to carry you throughout the maintenance of these diseases as well. And it can be done through, like, you know, if I'm a clinician and I don't know how to add a mindfulness component to my program or my LU or whatever I'm doing, I can do it with meditations, right? I can start introducing my clients to meditations and breathing exercises and grounding techniques. I was just reading something earlier today that was talking about yoga for eating disorders, because it helps you connect with your body in a much more loving and self-soothing and accepting kind of way with the paired breathing, with the paired meditation, you know, and so that can be especially helpful for people with eating disorders. And it also kind of teaches you how to do that urge surfing thing, right? How to stay calm and breathe through unpleasant feelings either in my body or in my mind. And that's just a cute little mindful, right? The dog's the happy one there because he's mindful.